Welcome to the NJ Criminal Podcast, and part 2 in this series.
I definitely believe that justice should be individually tailored, and for that reason, although we're pretty tough here, we have more diversion programs. We divert more cases away from prosecution and into treatment than any of our predecessors ever have.
Do you think that is the goal of the criminal justice system?
I think the goal is, the overarching goal is to keep people safe. But the justice takes many forms, Meg. And, it's funny, when you graduate law school, you tend to be idealistic, and especially if you're real young, and I was, where you see things in terms of it's one or the other. So you're either on this side or you're on that side. And it was oversimplification, but I used to tell people I locked up the bad guys and felt good about it, felt proud about that. But as I've aged and I've matured and reflected on some of the stupid stuff that I used to get away with that you promised not to talk about, Meg, if I have to remind you.
I remember.
Yeah, so that I thought to myself, well, look, there but for the grace of God go I. And I think justice is more than just how many notches can you put in your belt. It's making sure that the right result is reached for the right reason, whether that's certainly an innocent person go free, or a person that even has committed the crime gets the treatment they need, or gets the diversion, a second chance program, that the community is protected, that the victims are made whole. And sometimes it is frank, raw punishment. I don't want to mislead people. That is an important component of what we do. But I'll say this, even now since I've been the DA, since 2016, as you pointed out, my vision of what our role is has expanded even more. And that is to keep the people in our community safe. And that entails going out to the schools, doing public outreach, talking about public service things, making sure that people know what resources are available. And I do all of those things, and I encourage all the people that I work with to do them as well.
Does Pennsylvania have the equivalent of New Jersey's drug court, which is now being referred to as recovery court?
It's piecemeal in Pennsylvania. So one of the main differences between New Jersey and Pennsylvania in the criminal justice system is that New Jersey was top down. And what I mean by that is you had your attorney general and you had the Supreme Court, and they would essentially dictate to the counties how criminal law was going to be pursued, or criminal justice was going to be pursued. Here in Pennsylvania, because it's a commonwealth and not a state, the power goes down to the least common denominator. So power resides either in a municipality or a county as opposed to an entire state. And for that reason, it's really up to each county as to whether they have a drug court or not, which is pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
But we have a very robust one here in Bucks County, and we pretty recently started one at the district court level, which is the lowest level, which would be the equivalent of municipal court in Jersey. And we also recently started a mental health court here on the county level.
Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. I saw where you were the first district attorney in the country to purchase the universal license to the film and program entitled Walking While Black, Love is the Answer, which you have successfully presented to participants countywide. Can you describe what that is and what that's all about?
Yeah, sure. So when you're the DA, you're the top guy, you get to take risks. And this was before George Floyd was murdered. I was approached by a lady named Barbara Simmons, who was then the head of an organization called the Peace Center, very fittingly, here in Bucks County. And she had seen this film and participated in the program in Delaware County. And she urged me, she said, you have to watch this film. This is worthwhile. We need to bring this to Bucks County. And the essence of it is the film is very difficult to watch because the first 12 minutes of it, all it shows is police brutality. That's all it shows. And there's no real context to it. It's horrible. And then the next, I would say, whether you watch the 60-minute version or the 90-minute version, are all these stories from people of color that have been in prominent roles, including police officers and FBI officers that have been essentially mistreated. And then there are some redemptive stories in that film as well. And then after you watch the film, you get together in a discussion group with a moderator and usually a police officer and people from the community. And it's there that the real work gets done. But before I got to that, I was encouraged to watch the film. And I have to tell you, Meg, I was very, very, very defensive. It was really hard to watch. Mm-hmm. But I got through it, and I saw that there could be some value there. And so this lady, Barbara Simmons, she convinced me to purchase the rights to the film, which I did. So now I have a universal license here in Bucks County. And then she challenged me even further. She's like, okay, now I want you to get all the police chiefs, and we have 39 police chiefs here in Bucks County, to watch the film and endorse it.
Oh, wow.
Like, my gosh.
That's a challenge, I'm sure.
Oh, I have, I don't rattle easily, but I accepted the challenge, and they agreed to watch it. And they watched the film, and then afterwards it was up to me to answer any questions. Every one of them had their arms crossed, their legs crossed. They had a scowl on their face. It was really, really rough. But because we enjoy a great and trusting relationship between all of us, they were willing to go along with me. And so they agreed to endorse the film and then to participate in this program. And we started showing that film and doing the program live before George Floyd, before COVID, and we continue to do so to this day. We were doing it virtually because we had to shift a little bit. But what ends up happening, Meg, is after you watch the film, your emotions are so raw that it causes you to be very, very honest about your feelings when discussing them. And the essence of it is to be honest about how you feel about police, and for police to be honest and receive this in a non-defensive way. And it's difficult. The cops are challenged every time I ask them to participate. It's really difficult, but they have responded because they understand that even if they're not guilty of bias, and we all have biases, as you know, but even if they're not guilty of bias, this is the perception in the community that they serve. So if that's the perception, they got to meet people where the perceptions are and try to dispel them. And frankly, the last thing that I tell them when I pitch it to them is I say, how can somebody accuse you of being prejudiced, prejudging them when you're willing to watch this film and participate in this program? Let them come to you and kick the tires, and then say after they've done the program with you that you're still not being responsive. And that's why we've had great success here in Bucks County with that program.
Is it essentially a conduit to community policing?
It is. It is. We need more of that. We don't do a great job here in Bucks County with community policing, but we are at least very, very receptive to our community. I was just on the phone with the head of the Bucks County NAACP just before we got on this call because she had an issue with a constituent and needed to know if I could help out. And I was grateful that she would be willing to contact me to see if I could be a resource. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I think in all areas of life, being able to reach across the divide or even a perceived divide and be able to just talk is really so important.
It is.
So, I was thinking about, the wonderful relationship that we've had over the years, and I was sharing with my summer intern about how after you left the prosecutor's office in Cape May, I was still an assistant prosecutor, and I had a pretty tough trial that was the jury spoke, and it was not in favor of the state. And you reached out to me and sent me a text, and it was Teddy Roosevelt's quote. And I'm going to quote it here because it just reminds me of you in so many ways, and it was really so appreciative. I was so appreciative at that time. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And again, that was Theodore Roosevelt, which was from a speech that he gave in Paris in 1910. And, every time I hear that quote, I think of you because of how hard you have always fought. And you've had some tough trials over the years. You once told me, some of these difficult trials, they aren't like fine wine or cheese. I would never forget you telling me that. Just get in there and try it, Meg.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned. There is more to come. This podcast is not a source of legal advice. No two legal cases are the same. Contact an attorney if you require legal assistance.